So in the previous episode, we showed you guys how to install the mount for the seat carrier. Now, with the fact that we removed the rear fender, we now lost our license plate mounts and our lights mounts and our license plate light mount. So what we did is reutilizing the existing bolts from the fender assembly, and these are actually the bolts that mounted the rear license plate over to the frame assembly. The 1920 solo seat comes with two holes that are recessed, and they are hollow holes through, no threading, so you can actually use any bolts you want. But what we're going to do is we're going to reuse these bolts and we're going to sink them through, and afterwards we went to Home Depot and we bought two 4-inch corner pieces, which we're going to use as brackets to mount to the bolts, and off of these mounts we are going to place our lights on either end. The unfortunate part is that, unlike Oxook's video when he was able to reuse his TV mount, we didn't have a solid piece that would keep these stationary. So right now, in theory, they could twist and bend, therefore kind of off-angling your lights. At this time, as you can tell, I'm doing this in my parking lot, so I don't have access to a welder. But as soon as I'm back to work after Christmas vacation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack on a little piece of metal in between these two to make sure that they are one solid piece and they cannot twist on each other. So without further ado, basically we'll put one over here, and these are M8 1.25 bolts that we are using washers and a lock nut on the bottom, and the same for the other side. Now, my suggestion to you guys, use whatever is available, but also just make sure that you are kind of mapping your plan of how you're going to assemble everything prior to assembly. So they're not fully torqued down yet, so they can still have some flex, just in case we have to make any further adjustments. With the light brackets loosely installed, what we're going to do next is mount the lights. So what we're actually doing is we are reusing the original fender light mounting hardware with our 4-inch by 4-inch little elbows or corner brackets. We are going to use the existing holes in the corner brackets to run our bolts through. Now, the light comes with a little nipple and a detent for where it previously sat. Now, we could drill out a little tiny pilot hole so this doesn't twist and bend, but for the time being, for our fitment purposes, what we're going to do is we're going to put in a washer just to space it out on this side, and also using a washer on the other side. Well, what's going to happen is we're going to just loosely secure the lights too, to see where our project is heading. Now, with the lights gently secured, what we're going to do is reattach the two electrical connectors. Now, the two electrical connectors are different, and if you have the lights mounted on the wrong sides, what's going to happen is when you're going to blink left, you might have the right blinker actuate, and if you blink right, you might have the other blinker actuate. So my suggestion, and 100% do this, is plug everything in, turn on your bike, flick your blinkers, and to ensure that your blinkers are working as they are intended to do so. Also, as you can see, that these 4x4-inch brackets, they are a little bit long on the downward side, and we're going to have a little bit of extra show of the bracket. So easiest thing is going to be to touch that up with either a hacksaw or a grinder and just trim it very nicely and very aesthetically pleasing. And that is going to be one thing I will do at a different date, and I will update this video. For the time being, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to test the lights. So there's two connectors that are readily available right here, easy to access with the bottom plate out. The gray connector goes on here. If I can plug it in at this time. Gray connector is on, and then the other connector is going to be a white connector, which will go to the secondary light. With both lights reconnected, let's give it a test. Left is working as left is intended. Right is working as right is intended. And with these bikes, what we can do is we'll also test our hazards, which are both working. Next portion is going to be for the time being, again, as I mentioned earlier, this is a test fit and I am repeating myself a lot. I do not want to cut the wires and having to shrink them using solderless connectors or solder or whatever I will decide. For now, there is ample room down here below the fuse box and around the battery where what we're going to do is carefully tuck the lights under. Now, this upper plate that comes in is actually grooved on one side for the exit port of the wiring, but it's not grooved on the other side, so I'm intending to just bore it out a little bit for the wire to pass with the least amount of extra access, and to tuck the two wires under, put our blanket over top while we measure out and take our bike in for a bracket fitment for the battery closeout. And in the meantime, what we're going to do is we are going to mount our license plate light and license plate brackets. For the final part of our test fitment for today, what we did is underneath here, as my friendly companion will show you, we used two 90-degree elbows that we actually found spare from my IKEA furniture to mount them to the top of the existing holes in the Indian top cover, and off of that we temporarily mounted my license plate. Hey guys, as you can tell, I'm wearing different clothes, so while editing the video I noticed that I didn't get actually a good look at the brackets I used. So a quick explanation is I wanted to reuse the stock license plate mount off of the back fender of the Indian, so I can reutilize the lights without having to do additional fabrication. And what I actually used to mount this, as you can tell for now, it's just tie wraps because I don't have the proper screws, which means another day of shopping. But with Christmas, it's kind of getting super hectic. Now, as my companion here will show you, is I use just two little brackets loosely mounted right now, and these are just little 90-degree elbows that I found spare all my IKEA furniture in my random items drawer, and I use these, secure them down through the holes to the mount that I'm going to use to my closeout bracket, and then to that I'm going to mount this plate temporarily with tie wraps, eventually running a little nut and bolt through, to which afterwards I am going to reutilize the stock holes to mount my license plate. Now this is again all just a test fitment, and I'm going to be cleaning it up, but for today I wanted to see what my essentials were to have everything kind of in place, so that when I go to finalize the project I only have to touch up little details. Because for instance, with the bigger, wider tire, I will obviously want my plate to sit a lot more tucked in and other things, but for today the biggest brunt of work is done, and this is actually doable without having to buy excessive material, and you could do it yourself.